Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, it's going to be a special Friday reading. I'm on my lunch break from work here, and I was checking AP News and I saw this story. Now, to preface this, we know that the Democrats in the Senate are currently filibustering the continuing resolution to fund the government. The Republicans refuse to negotiate with the Democrats. The Democrats are asking for additional funding for Medicare. But basically, there were credits that were in place that are going away, and they're asking that in this continuing resolution that these credits maintain in place so that people can continue to afford health care. The dropping of these credits, as people are starting to see with open enrollment happening now in our healthcare systems. Oh, for those outside the United States, there's like a 2-week period that happens right now where you can update your medical coverage. You can change it. You can go to different programs. We're going through that with my employer right now. But this is also when you get to see how much your insurance premiums are going up. And in many cases, those premiums per month are doubling. So not having those credits is very stark and shocking for some folks. Anyway, so that's the political fight that's happening on. Because the government's shut down, there's no money that's going to be going out to programs. And that's what the federal government, the Trump administration, is saying with SNAP, our food stamps program, that they're not going to fund it in November. This is through the agricultural department. There is money in a contingency fund. It's about $5 billion or so. $5 or $6 billion in this contingency fund that could be used to fund food stamps. Now, food stamps, SNAP, costs about $8 billion a month, I believe, if I remember the number correctly. So it was like $6 billion in there. It would cover like 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks in a month if they fully funded the SNAP program. In September, the Trump administration took down information on the USDA's website. I believe I've got it right as USDA. There was a comment. Now, part of their mission statement was like, they've got these contingency funds. There, if the program couldn't be fully funded, they could use these contingency funds to fund the program. That information got scrubbed from the website in September, which tells you that the Trump administration gave orders to this department to take that information down because it would be inconvenient for their argument that they can't fund food stamp programs and women, infant, children supplement, WICs. That's why the Democrats are saying, when the Republicans saying, oh, we can't possibly fund it, well, people are going to have to starve. The Democrats saying, you've got funds. You're legally responsible to do that. So approximately 25 state attorney generals sued the Trump administration to force them to use those contingency funds to fund SNAP programs. The states administer the SNAP programs and they get reimbursed by the federal government. It's kind of like that. I don't know if the federal government, people use debit cards, so the money goes to debit cards. I'm not sure if the federal government funds it or if they go through states or if it's some hybrid of those. But that's the general thing. The end user has a debit card they can use for food stamps. The money ultimately comes from the federal government and it goes through the states. Okay. Lawsuits were brought, and 2 federal judges, I believe it was one in Rhode Island, one in Massachusetts here. I'll get to that in a second. Both ruled today that the Trump administration must continue to fund SNAP. I first saw this story yesterday, and I can't remember if I put it in my video last night. I don't think I did because I did on King Charles. I was very excited because the judge said that she felt that the Trump administration was wrong about this and she would rule quickly. And by ruling quickly, it was like the next day quickly, which is awesome. Okay, so in this article that I've got from AP News, the U.S. Department of Agriculture planned to freeze payments to SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, because it said it can no longer keep funding it. So it's $8 billion per month nationally, and it serves about 1 in 8 Americans, which tells you about the status of the greatness of this nation when 12.5% of the population require food assistance. We are seriously screwed up in this country. So 25 states and the District of Columbia challenged the plan to pause the program. There was a contingency fund with about $5 billion in it, which the administration said it wasn't allowed to use a contingency fund with about $5 billion in it for the program, which reversed a USDA plan from before the shutdown that said the money would be tapped to keep SNAP running. Democratic officials also argued, which is, again, they'll cover about 3/4 of the month if they were to fully fund it. The Democrats also argued that not only can that money be used, it must be used. And they also said there's a separate fund with about $23 billion that's available for that usage as well. So now we're talking $28 billion. You can fully fund it for 3.5 months with those contingency funds. Literally your funds for a rainy day. Now, you don't have to fully fund it. Maybe you can half fund it or 3/4 fund it to stretch it out a little bit longer. But there's money there. You don't need to cut people off fully. Okay, so a federal judge in Rhode Island ruled from the bench that the program must be funded using at least the contingency funds and asked for an update on that progress on Monday. A Massachusetts judge, different state, also gave the administration until Monday to say whether it would partially pay for benefits for November using contingency money or fund them fully with additional funds. Okay. It is expected that both rulings will face appeals. That tells you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know is on that sentence right there. The rulings are likely to face appeals. If the federal government cared, this Trump administration cared about feeding its most vulnerable populations, and they thought legally they couldn't do it with contingency funds, if 2 judges are saying, yeah, you can use those contingency funds for it, shouldn't the federal government's response would be, hallelujah, we found a way to feed our hungry, most vulnerable people? If that was the concern that, we didn't think we could, you said we can, rock and roll, we can do it. No, they want to appeal it. What are they going to say? We don't know. We disagree with you, Judge. We really don't think we legally can do it. 2 judges just said it's legal. Why would you appeal that? The reason why you appeal it? Because it's a cudgel. It's leverage to get the Democrats to cave to whatever political things you want from them with regards to the budget, the continuing resolution, and future budget plans. And the cudgel is to make the most vulnerable suffer and play on the empathy of the Democratic legislators. Maybe there's another thing in there that I'm missing, but that's the one that leaps out and screams in my face, grabs me by my collar and shakes me around type of thing. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit amped up, and it's not the coffee. I'm just really excited because this exposes the Republicans. Now, a couple days ago, I did a reading on this, and I was saying, I saw where there was going to be a compromise and that Thune worked things out with the Senate Democrats and that they would fund the programs. And I forget what when I get like this, I'm channeling and I lose that edge and I lose my memory a bit. I'd have to watch my own videos to actually know what I said. But I saw that there was going to be a compromise. And then literally the next day, Thursday, this judge ruled. It's like, that's it. That's the key. It's like the game is up for the Senate Republicans. They can't use this to leverage the Democrats and force them to feed hungry and force them to make a choice between feeding hungry people or caving in on this budget. This buys the Democrats time because now that pressure, that leverage is being taken away. The second part is going to be funding the military, funding members of the FAA, TSA, stuff along those lines. That's going to be the second. That's the Josh Hawley plan. Okay. The U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani told lawyers that if the government can't afford to cover the cost, there's a process to follow rather than simply suspending all benefits. Quote, the steps involve finding an equitable way of reducing benefits. Unquote. Also, if you don't have the money, tighten your belt. You're not going to make everyone drop dead because it's a political game someplace. She gets it. She knows exactly what it is, and she called out the BS for what it was. Government lawyers say that the money cannot legally be used to maintain SNAP, the $5 billion. The states say it must be used for that purpose. Tawani also said her ruling would apply nationwide, not just the states, the 25 states and District of Columbia that brought the challenge. Sometimes there is some hope in this country. I realize I'm amped up. It's a long intro, but you need to have at least the background that we're working on here. So I want to read on this latest ruling. I'll read on the appeals of it and the deals that come from it. Okay? These readings are for entertainment purposes only, but this encourages me. And it's just because it's like, thank God we've got judges elsewhere that are basically saying, no, you're not going to starve people because you're trying to ram some political budget through on people. Not happening. At least there's some compassion somewhere. Come on down. This is for entertainment purposes only. These are the tarot card readings of a lunatic on Facebook, on YouTube. So, take it with a grain of salt. But I do try to interpret the cards as they come out. Let's take a look at this snap decision by the judges. How is that looking? We start, foundation of the reading is the Seven of Cups. The integrity of the decision, taking the good with the bad. The government's shut down. We do have money. You may not get everything, but you can get some things. There's no reason to starve people out. It's a choice. And you force it into the courts, and the courts are going to make the choice for you. And the choice is, how do you best take care of people and make sure all their needs are met? In the past, the Three of Cups. It's the celebration, the Republicans holding all three branches of government: the executive branch, congressional branch, and judicial branch. But they own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. With the elections, they were allowed to be put in office. I don't want to use the term won the election because I have opinions. But they're in there and they're forcing their will on folks. Now the current situation is the Ace of Swords. The judges are now involved. The legal system's now involved, and they're cutting through the BS. And the justice system is here. It's here. It's about equitability, fairness, doing what's right. Lesson we learned is the Page of Pentacles. This is like that parent watching children argue over small things that shouldn't be argued over. It's like they're looking at the ridiculousness of this. The federal government is literally crying poor mouse. Oh, we couldn't possibly. And they're like, yeah, you got the money, use it. That's what the intention was with these contingency funds. The judge even said that. I looked back, I looked at what Congress originally intended, and my interpretation was they put this money aside for a rainy day, use it. You don't have to use all of it. You can cut back the benefits, tighten your belt as the case may be, to stretch it out, but you got the money, you got to use it. Outcome is the King of Cups. It's a reasonable, compassionate ruling. The ruling comes across as, to me, apolitical. You're looking at people's best interests. They're not doing it to say, haha, I want the Democrats to win in this. This literally is an interpretation of the law and the intent of Congress when they set up these food assistance programs and contingency funds for them. It's a legal ruling. The problem is that we have become so polarized that now we have to be concerned who appointed the judge and incorporate that part of their ruling as opposed to a judge ruling on something. Again, the disturbing part of this article was the fact that the federal government would likely plan to appeal this. Obviously, the states are not going to appeal it. They got the ruling that they wanted. I mean, maybe they could. Maybe they want the ruling to say, and you have to use this $23 billion too. I suppose it could be that, but right now it looks like the states that sued, wanting the program funded, have won this round. Let's look at the appeals process. Will the government appeal? Eight of Wands, yeah, and quickly too, apparently. Eight of Swords, trapped. Six of Coins, money, generosity, restriction, Page of Pentacles, and the World card. They will want to appeal quickly. I mean, it could be that they just, to me, this is saying underneath, they know that they're not going to win the appeal. That's what's telling me underneath here. This game is over. They know it's over. Will they appeal? Yeah, they might appeal quickly. Saying, we don't have the money, or they will so greatly restrict they might comply, but it might be malicious compliance. Like they'll fund 10% of SNAP, instead of, or 1/6 of SNAP or something like that. They're bound by the judge's order. They know the money's there. They know they have to give the money. They could appeal it quickly, but it's not likely to win. They can comply maliciously and still try and hold leverage over the Democrats. But now they have to deal with the judge. And I think if they do appeal, or if they bring this up, the lawsuit from the states will still come in about, the federal government's going to have to convince the judge that the funding that they provide is reasonable. Right? That's the way it looks. I'm not a legal expert, but that's the way it looks. So if they want to say, we can only fund it 10%, I think the judge is going to say, hit the bricks. You don't need to be that stingy with it. I can't see a scenario where they're allowed to fund it for less than 50% of it, especially given that there's another $23 billion fund at hand. I could see the judge say, "Now I want 2/3, or I want 50, no less than 50%, maybe no less than 2/3." Because again, $28 billion at $8 billion a year, that's about 3.5 months. And if you take 2/3 of that, that's going to be 9, 10. It'd be about 5 months if you take it at 2/3. I think the federal government's not going to stay closed for 5 months or even 3 months. Okay, so you could fully fund it and be fine. How are Senate Republican leadership looking at this? I'm not even going to bother asking about Mike Johnson because I know the answer to that one. He's he's simping for Donald Trump and protecting him from the Epstein files. That's the only reason that Johnson's not calling the House back in. But Senator Thune, on the other hand, he's got problems now. They've lost a big leverage part, and Trump is now telling Republican senators to fund SNAP. He must be so aggravating to deal with, because he's the one that was telling the Republicans not to negotiate with the Democrats whatsoever. So they take his lead, and now he's waffled and said that no, you need to fund SNAP. The flexibility of their spines, the jellyfish that they are, it helps if you don't have one, to contort yourself to this man's ever-changing mercurial decision-making is astounding. And we've seen this since Trump has been in office. Starts off one way, changes his mind. That's why taco is his thing. Trump always chickens out. Or chicken and waffles. He chickens out, then he waffles on his decisions. What is the Senate leadership going to do with this latest court ruling? Three of Wands. Waiting for the next actions. Kind of like waiting to see what happens here. What are we going to get? What are they waiting for here? I'm only going to do 4-quarter on this one. Ace of Wands. They have to come up with a new plan now. Their plan is no longer an issue. It's going to be about funding. In the Star card. Yeah, I think they realize. I think they're going to wait to see how the appeals force things. But in the end of the day, the king with the sword of Damocles is right over them. They don't have any maneuvering room, which is that Eight of Swords was showing before. They've lost their room to maneuver. The day is coming where they're going to have to fund SNAP. And they know that's going to have to be funded, and they're going to have to talk about this continuing resolution here. They need to come up with a new plan. That new plan could be providing, extended health care benefits like the Democrats want, or negotiate on those. The Star card. I'm only pausing with the Star card because I do like Hogarth's thing, that the corruption of the Trump administration here. But let's just look at the best of America. The inclusion and exclusion of it. They're supposed to be looking what's best for the population, taking care of the most vulnerable and taking action on that. They've been delaying, but the courts are going to force them to do it. I really think that this court decision puts the Republicans back against the wall, because you have to start looking at elections. It's a year from now that we will be voting again. I record this on October 31st, by the way. Happy Halloween. And the election will be happening in November of 2026. So just a tick over a year away. But you have to start looking at that. Now, obviously, not all the Senate seats are up in 2026, but roughly a third of them should be. They get elected. They're in 6-year terms. With Trump changing his tune, how does that impact the Senate Republicans? Page of Pentacles. Boy, that card's come up 3 times. That was down here. With Trump changing his tune, lesson to be learned, Trump changing his tune. Page of Pentacles. They've got the money. They have to do something with it. All this, it's like with Trump changing his tune, they're looking like, we went through all this turmoil for what? For you to chicken out, basically, and try and put yourself in a position where your poll numbers go up. Page of Swords. Queen of Wands. There's almost a vibe like we should have seen this coming. We should have known he was going to do this. We should have known that the minute the temperature went up in the kitchen, this guy was going to cave. Messaging on money, messaging ideas, winner takes all. Because Trump's telling them, no, don't compromise ever. And he is basically he's caused the turmoil. He's the one that was telling him to do this. And it's like they should have known better. God, we were idiots for believing. Yet again, we thought this was a strong idea. No, it was a weak idea. We should have known. It's just Trump messaging. The Trump messaging always stings these guys. He may start losing support. Trump may start losing support in the Senate. Between his illnesses, and constant changing, moving the goalposts, changing the rules of the game, changing his opinion, and basically hanging these guys out to dry so that he can chase poll numbers, they're going to get tired of playing that game. Which is why when he told them to compromise and give the benefits, the Republicans didn't do that. They're defying him, but they're defying him in a crappy way, probably because they know they're going to need to negotiate something with the Senate Democrats opposed to putting their tail between their legs and asking for forgiveness. So they'll try and negotiate something out of it. But the Senate Democrats now have Trump putting pressure on Senate Republicans to fund SNAP. The courts are now saying to fund SNAP. So Trump just wants to come across like a winner. Must be hard to stand up when you don't have a spine. Okay. Will SNAP benefits be reinstated within the next, say, 2 weeks? They're saying it takes about a week or two from when the ruling happens to come in place. That 3-1s could be it takes 3 weeks. Let's make 3 before Thanksgiving. Will SNAP benefits be mostly restored? 4-quarter. 2 of Swords. That's decisions that need to be made. Wheel of Fortune. Things are happening, moving forward. 5 of Coins. People still being left out in the cold. Not getting the money that they need. Knight of Cups. Compromising coming. Temperance. Integration. I think the appeals will have happened before that. Again, it's they want to appeal because they want to continue to put pressure on the Democrats to make a choice on starving people out. So we have a progression here waiting for an offer of compromise. This can come from the Democrats or the Republicans. So I do believe the Republicans will appeal. This appeal is maybe not decided yet before Thanksgiving in November. It may take 2 to 3 weeks for that appeal to go through. But while that appeal is happening, I do believe there is progress being made in negotiations between Democrats and Republicans on how much to fund the program. That's from those cards. That's about the most optimistic interpretation I can come with those. But I also think it's a fairly reasonable one, taking into account politics and how people conduct themselves with politics. What a country, as Yakov Smirnoff would say. As a reminder, I will be doing a live on Tuesday, November 4th with Shauna Ristic. On Sunday, I'm going to be doing a video with her that'll go up probably Sunday afternoon, where you'll find out more about her. Shauna had a near-death experience when she was 19, so about probably 25 years ago or so. And it really opened up her gifts. She's a medium and a healer. She's an intuitive. I've known her for about 10 years now, so I'm excited to introduce her to you through my channel. I hope you'll watch the video on Sunday and join us for the live on Tuesday. That'll be 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern time, I believe is when it is. I've got the information on my channel. It's in the post section as well as the live section for it. If you're subscribed and you've hit the bell, you will get a notification of me going live. This will be one of my first lives that I've done on my channel in a long time. So I hope you'll join us for that. I look forward to doing this, and I will catch you on the next video. Thank you again for supporting my channel, for helping me get over 50,000 subscribers. Still stunning that y'all are hanging around and subscribing to this channel, listening to my lunatic ravings on the internet. But I am very grateful for your viewership, your subscriptions, your comments, and everything. I do appreciate it. Have a good one. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.